Hello everyone. This evening I'm hanging out in beautiful Green Hall right here on campus. It's pretty close to my office and used to be our university's library. I really like the room. It's old and wood. There's a fireplace that doesn't really work anymore, probably because they figured out that when they had an old library in here, it wasn't a good idea to keep ancient musty books in with a fireplace. And everything has since moved over to the Meyer Library. But I like the room a lot just because of the history in it, sort of the way you sound when you speak in it, and the lighting's kind of pretty beautiful, truth be told. So this evening we're talking about persuasion. As we're starting in on our last speech of the semester, we only have a couple of discussions left, we've got one workshop left, we have one presentation left. And it's all about persuading your audience to take action. Now, if you have not looked at the speech 3 instructions yet, please take a few minutes, go check those out. The gist of it is I'm asking you to prepare a speech where you ask the audience to download a program to their phones or to their computer that helps them solve an issue that you feel they have in their lives, or an issue that you see out in the world where we could solve that issue by following the instructions and using this program to its beneficial degrees. So today we're going to talk about what does and doesn't work, and then we're going to talk about a couple of patterns of organization that I'd like you to be working on with this particular speech. Now, when we do persuasion in this particular instance, what we're doing is what I call policy speeches. And policy speeches ask whether an action should or should not be taken, such as you should vote, you should exercise, you should not eat certain foods, things of that nature. And to give you an example that would work for this particular presentation, persuade my audience that they should download and use the app Sandbox. Sandbox is a phone application that's used to send letters to soldiers overseas that are serving our country. What you do is you type in your letter, you select a soldier, you type in a letter, and then someone will physically put that letter in the mail for you. And I'm sure you've all received letters from people, cards, notes. Receiving those physical letters is a big deal to us. And we're not off doing something incredibly important, potentially halfway across the world. So of course, soldiers really appreciate it when we do things like this. Now, if you want to use this particular app, you are more than welcome to. For our purposes right now, I'm just using it as an example of what would work. So let's go on. Now, when we argue policies, we're not arguing facts. It's really important to differentiate that. Facts have already been proven. There's really nothing to argue about it. We use facts to argue things. So, for example, to persuade my audience that the moon landing was a hoax doesn't really make a very solid choice. One, I think you're going to have a hard time finding an app that will help you prove that. And two, it's really easy to tell that we've been on the moon simply by going and looking through a telescope. If you have a powerful enough telescope, one that you can actually buy yourself at an affordable price now, you can actually look up at the moon and see the junk that we've left there. Now, if someone has been able to manipulate every single powerful enough telescope in the world to show fake junk, well, that's a pretty incredible hoax. But honestly, we know that we've been to the moon at this point. But that doesn't mean you can't talk about space exploration or science, things of that nature. So perhaps more importantly, you could say we should donate or volunteer to help with after-school science programs, or we should donate money to NASA, or we should be involved in these space exploration programs that we can find here locally. Now, with after-school science programs, there are a number of apps that you can download and you can use to help out with these programs. You can go and work with kids at schools. There are a number of programs that show you how to do very simple science experiments that you can do with objects you find around your household, and you can help someone right here in Milwaukee, some kids, some underprivileged youth, some overprivileged youth for that matter, perhaps, find some great love of science and steer them towards a path that may lead them into a better life as an adult. We also don't argue values and morality. Certainly, I'm asking you to find some topics that you find value in, but we don't use morality as the big argument to prove our claim. So look at this for a second. To persuade my audience that raising animals and killing them for food is wrong. Now, I'm not saying that you can't talk about being vegetarian or changing our eating choices, but I don't want you to argue from the standpoint that it is morally wrong to do that. And yeah, there are some universal things that are morally wrong, but you're not going to give a speech about why we shouldn't commit murder. And I hope there's not an app that helps us not do that. Or though maybe I hope there is an app that helps us not do that, because I suppose that is an important thing. But the morality argument isn't really grounded in scientific basis. It's not proven empirically. It's something that we base opinions upon. It's something that we try and force on people, sometimes in the wrong possible way. And again, I'm not saying that you can't use the animal topic. So instead of saying it's wrong to eat meat, we should say we should reduce our consumption of meat. And certainly there are hundreds, if not thousands, of programs and applications that we can use to track our consumption of meat and show us how and when we are over-consuming things and what that does to our body. Because there's plenty of evidence that shows that we do over-consume meat as a culture. That when we do this, it has negative effects on our heart, on our energy, on our sleep cycle. And I believe what people like to say is, this is about our daily portion of meat, something about the size of a cell phone, and not a lot of people stick to that at this point. So let's move on. As you're just deciding topics, I want you to think about the scope of the topic. Now, things like abortion and gun control and the legalization of marijuana, both state and nationally, are certainly important topics, but they're pretty big. And you only have 7 minutes to present this topic. And presenting the definitive argument or something we can do to change these things in just 7 minutes can be very difficult. So I don't want you to bite off something that's too large. And beyond that, when we keep with a smaller, more focused topic, something that's going to be easier for all of us to affect and have some influence over, it makes it a little bit easier for us to focus in on our audience. Makes it a little bit easier for us to focus in on what we would like our audience to do. To do one of these topics, we would have to draw a line in the sand somewhere and say, all of you are in favor of or opposed to one of these things. And I think that's very difficult for us to do to these 20 people that we're speaking with. I also like you to think a little bit about the controversialness of your topic. Certainly it's important that we brush our teeth, but do you think anybody in the class doesn't have that idea in their head already? We don't need to download an application to remind us to brush our teeth, just like we're already doing. However, if you are interested in something like that, it's been proven that once people get to college, your visits to the dentist start to go down. And part of the reasoning is that you're on your own for the first time ever. You get to make your choices. You get to decide when you wake up, when you go to sleep, what you have for breakfast, lunch, dinner, where you go, where you spend your time, and whether or not you continue to go to your regular dental checkups. So we could argue that college students need to have something in place, some sort of scheduling app, some sort of application with our dentist perhaps, that tells us it's time to go back and have our teeth cleaned again. I also would not like you to sell things personally. I love Girl Scouts, and I treasure that one day every year that one of my nieces calls and gives me the spiel. Or, hello, Uncle Christopher. I am a Girl Scout. How many boxes do you want? It's adorable, and I love it. But I don't want you to get in here and try and get us to spend a bunch of money on products for your niece, nephew, little sister, or your neighbor's friend, for that matter. But we can still be involved in items of consumerism. If you want to talk about those Girl Scouts, there are many ways that we can donate our time and money there, and there are some Girl Scout applications that we can work with. You could also stay within the idea of consumerism. There are plenty of places that talk about, plenty of applications that talk about products to avoid, because there's animal testing done on them. There are applications that tell us what businesses to avoid, because they have unfair hiring practices. And we know I shouldn't say not to pick on Walmart, because I'm about to pick on Walmart quite a bit right now. We know that Walmart does not offer their employees a lot of health insurance. We know that Walmart does not promote women in managerial positions. Similarly, they don't promote a lot of minorities in managerial positions. We know that they do a lot of things that don't sit right with us. So we can find better places to shop. And I'm not telling you to go and avoid Walmart. Sometimes you can't. It's very convenient. They're all over the place. But you can advocate for us to find businesses that have very solid hiring practices, very solid promotional practices, and that take care of their employees. As important as voting is right now, please don't try and sway us to one side or the other. By this time in your lives, most of you have decided which side of the fence you sit on. And though that may change later on, arguing that way generally ends up being a very value-oriented argument. So instead, you can keep us within the realm of political engagement. There are a lot of applications, there's a lot of programs that talk to us about what sort of, what sort of political events are happening in our nation. You can be involved with senators, you can be involved with local government in this way, and there's a lot of great ways for us to get involved in that particular fashion. So there are almost an infinite number of topics, of course, and we'll have a topic assignment up and running here very shortly for you to work on. It'll ask you to do, as usual, I'll ask you to analyze a couple of different things so you can come up with the best possible thing for yourself. But I really do want you to pick a topic that you're very interested in. So the more interested and more committed you feel to the subject matter, probably the more passion you're going to put into telling us about it, and that makes a big difference. Now, we've got a couple of patterns of organization that we're going to work with. And the first is very simple. We've already been working with it all semester. It's problem solution. But when you're working with a policy speech where you're advocating for us to change our habits, to do something, to perhaps even spend a little bit of our money on an application, on a program, well, that changes the nature of problem solution just a little bit. Because the problem has to be built up in such a way that we're angry, we are sad, we're scared. So by the time you're finished explaining the problem to us, we need to be at a spot emotionally where we're ready for a solution. And then that solution needs to empower us. It needs to show us what our action will do to help solve that problem, or at least be part of the solution to that problem. Because, of course, if it's a national issue, the actions of 20-some individuals in our public speaking class probably won't solve it, but we can at least feel like we're making some sort of difference there. So we've got two main points where we set up that problem, and then we show our audience how enacting this specific solution has some practicality in solving the problem. So here it is in a little bit more of a straightforward setup. There's something wrong. Status quo is incorrect. And you need to help us care about that. And the approach you take can be in any number of ways. As I said, you can scare us. You can make us believe that our inaction will create further dangers. You can make us sad by showing us the plight of others. You can make us angry by showing us the plight of others or telling us what our inaction will do. Whatever you'd like to, whichever approach you want to do. But it needs to be very audience-centric. And then you got to give us a way to fix it. Make us feel better by showing us how the simplest actions will make a difference there. We can go back to the soldier example earlier. It's very easy to show psychologically that our men and women overseas are suffering. They're homesick. They're in a land that they don't understand all the time. Sometimes they haven't even been prepared for it, and they're lonely. But simply by downloading this app and writing notes to people in need, we can help brighten their day a little bit. It doesn't bring them home, but it gives them a taste of home. It shows them somebody cares, somebody is paying attention, somebody understands, and somebody is thankful for what they're doing. Empower the audience to help us see the differences. Another one of my favorite examples has to do with Coca-Cola. It was not so long ago that the University of Colorado decided that they were going to get rid of all the unhealthy choices in their soda machines and in their vending machines, 100% actually. So they got together and they said, what can we do to help make the campus healthier? We will eliminate unhealthy choices in our vending machines. So no more Coca-Cola, no more root beer, no more Snickers bars, no more Skittles, no more Reese's Pieces. They got rid of all of it. And they replaced it with Gatorade, orange juice, apple juice, Chex Mix, granola bars, apples. And of course they were very worried. They were worried that students wouldn't continue to spend money at the vending machines. and that they would lose this source of revenue. Because vending machines at many campuses do a number of things. One, it is campus revenue, of course, but two, oftentimes they take that extra revenue, stuff that they weren't expecting from it, and they turn it into scholarships for students. And they wanted to be sure that they were going to continue to pull in that revenue and be able to do everything that they'd previously been able to do. So they just went all in. They made the choice. And a year later, they got back together and they looked at the numbers to find out whether or not it worked. And to their great surprise and enjoyment, revenue went up. It went up at the same curve that it had been going up the previous years. And what they found out was that a hungry student will still eat granola bar if there's no Snickers. A thirsty student will drink orange juice or vitamin water instead of a Coca-Cola. Sadly, a few years later, they sold out when Coca-Cola came back and offered them a colossal amount of money to put their products back on campus. But for a short period of time, we got to see the solution was working. Now, for our purposes, we can show that the problem is soda causes weight gain, tooth decay. There's a number of ways we can approach that. We can talk about numbers within your age groups and causality that may happen. We can see specific instances where that has happened to individuals. And of course, we can find very simple solutions. We can eliminate soda from our diet 1 day each week. And there's about a dozen programs that'll help us do those things. Helps us remind us to be better about this. It will text up on your phone. It'll pop up on your computer to show you that perhaps you should make a better choice on that particular day. Now, I forgot that I put that in there. So problem solution is, I guess I will bring this up. So problem solution is one of those things that you use on a pretty regular basis. You're probably already putting this together, but you may have said something to yourself this semester or in previous semesters that along these lines. I didn't do well on my first exam. So we isolate the problem. We figure out what happened. What are the causes of that? And it could be any number of things. Maybe you didn't sleep well the night before. You didn't have the right meals that day, so you were hungry when you got there. Maybe you were stressed out because other things were happening in your life. Maybe you just didn't study enough. And once you've isolated the reason for that issue, well, then we can start looking for a solution. And if it was the study solution, the solution, of course, is study more. And you can fix that problem. And there's dozens of apps that'll help us, that number of computer programs. And most of these are free, though there are some pay things. All right, so our second pattern of organization is Monroe's motivated sequence, and I'm actually a big fan of Monroe's. It has a lot of really great built-in practicality, and we'll explain that as we get into it. So Monroe's is an immediate action speech. Now with problem solution, as we've already seen, we can show problems and solutions, and your audience doesn't have to do anything about it. It can just be passive agreement where they agree. Yes, you're right. Somebody needs to do something about this. But with Monroe's, it's intended to make people take action in the very short term, at the very least. So within the next month or two, or very soon. It has 5 different steps, and there's 3 main points, and I'm going to walk you through all of them with a relevant example. So my example will be, I would like you to download a particular application that's going to help with planting trees. Now it's fall right now, so in my attention step, which is the introduction, I can start talking about how the leaves are turning colors. It's very beautiful out right now. We're driving all around the state. People flock to Door County this time of year to go and see what's happening. I know that you're probably all enjoying your walks to and from campus or your homes, wherever you're at. And it is gorgeous right here. And the weather has finally turned, so we're actually getting some fall weather. Now, Monroe called his introduction step the attention step. We still need all of our parts of an introduction. We have to gather attention. We have to explain our topic. We have to get the audience's attention and explain their stake in the matter. And you still need to explain your credibility and then preview your main points. But Monroe talked about this attention step as a way to gather in groups of people so that they'll become entrenched in the idea, sucked into an advertisement, a persuasive message. And once you had the attention of the audience by laying out all the proper ways of examining things, he moved on. We went to our first main point, the second of our steps, which was a problem step, but Monroe called it the need step. He called it that because he wanted to instill a need in the audience to take action. Much like problem solution, this is where Monre wanted audience members to start caring about an issue out there. For advertisers, it's caring that something's missing in their lives. For my intended purposes, for our application process here, I want to talk to you a little bit about deforestation. We are losing trees by the hundreds of acres every week right now, all across the globe. In the Amazon, we're tearing down precious resources where scientists are finding literally every week new species, new cures for diseases, new applications for these trees and products and minerals and everything else found within the rainforest. In Bangladesh, where rainforests are being taken down in favor of palm trees, we're destroying habitat for animals. The orangutan is only native to this one area where farmers are continually tearing down their forests and putting in palm trees to produce palm oil, a product that is used very widely in products that we eat. Not in particular, not to frighten you off of Girl Scouts, but the Girl Scout cookies use palm oil, and it is a huge production of palm oil that they use that comes straight from these palm forests that are these palm plantations that are being planted in favor of acres and acres of rainforest. So once we have fully established that there's an issue out there and helped our audience to see how much they should care about it, whether it's within themselves or outside of themselves in an area like our rainforest areas, then Monre wanted to go and give us a solution. And he calls the solution step, the plan step, the satisfaction step. Because the solution should be satisfying in that it immediately shows us how we can help make a difference in that problem that we need to solve. And my satisfaction step here is I would like you to download the Forest app. The Forest app is really interesting in that it is a study app. And you set your phone to Forest. And what it does is, while your phone is set into forest mode, an artificial tree, like a little artificial, is artificial the right way? Yeah, artificial tree will pop up on your cellular device. And the longer it sits there in forest mode, the longer it'll grow. And if you interrupt that, the tree will die. So it's a study aid to get you to set your phone down and let that thing grow. And I'll explain the practicality a little bit more here in depth as we get into the next step. But at a certain point of growing your tree, you're given a virtual currency. And when you spend that virtual currency in the app, it actually goes to real organizations that plant trees. So by setting your phone down in study mode with the Forest app, you are helping to solve the problem of deforestation simply by being a good student. Now, what sets Monre's apart from your traditional patterns of organization is the fourth step, the third main point, the visualization point. This is a built-in step of practicality, and it's meant to show you how much different your life might be, or the lives of people around us, or the world itself, or our community, how much different things will be if we do the thing that's asked of us in the satisfaction step. Now, it's not a visual aid step. I want to make sure that we're really clear on that. The visualization step does not ask you to show us a picture. It asks you to describe a picture of what life might be like. So for the Forest app, well, there are a couple of different things that'll happen. Number one, you may get addicted to this type of game system because it is, in itself, a little bit of a game culture. By setting it down and letting that tree grow, you're giving yourself a chance to study a little bit harder. And I think that's important with finals coming up. I think that's important pretty much any week of the semester, but in particular, with where we're headed in our school year, if you can take the time to really work and give yourself a break from your digital media, well, you're probably going to see some better results with that. You're going to do a little bit better in your final exams, you're going to finish your papers, you're going to have more time maybe to write your speech. So you're going to feel a little bit better because you'll have spent more time working on these things that matter a lot to you. In addition to that, as you work with the app, you are helping to solve the problem of deforestation because you're literally putting money into a system without doing anything other than studying. So our practicality is twofold. Number one, you're going to be a better student. And number two, you're helping to solve the problem of our missing trees. Now our final step is again the conclusion, but of course Monre has a little different way of looking at it. He refers to the conclusion as the call to action. And I actually really, really like that, because it's what he means is this is one last chance to tell everyone that they should get up and do this, and they should do it right away. So we put in our normal steps of the conclusion. We signal the end. We recap a little bit of our main points, and we have that strong closing line. But we also tell them just one more time. So here it is, folks. Be part of the solution by helping yourself out. Download the Forest app. Let your tree grow virtually, and see the results, both in yourself as a student and in the world around us. Right? So it's a very interesting pattern of organization. And you do actually see this quite a bit in your personal lives, though maybe not in the way you might be thinking. So late at night, while you're studying and the TV is playing, you may have seen something like this pop up in your television, or perhaps you've had an ad come up before, a YouTube video or something else has popped up on Facebook. But you've maybe seen something very similar to this, where an announcer's voice comes on, it shows you some cold weather, and it says, it's gotten cold here recently. It's oh so very cold. And you want to stay warm. So you go to your thermostat to turn the temperature up, but then you remember, energy bills are so costly and horrifying. So instead you go back to your couch and you do the only thing you can. You grab a blanket to try and keep warm. But there are so many issues with blankets. What if you get hungry? Well, a blanket is a difficult thing to eat with. What if your children or loved ones want to come and jump onto the blanket with you? Well, then you've got to toss things aside and rearrange stuff, and you can't hug them. What if somebody calls and you've got to tear the blanket off of you? God forbid you're outside in the wind with a blanket. Basically, folks, if you're using a blanket, your life is hell. You need to take action to solve this problem. So, buy a Snuggie! Operators are standing by. A Snuggie is the perfect alternative to blanket mechanics. And what's interesting about that particular infomercial is this satisfaction step is there and gone. So they spend a bunch of time showing you how horrible your life is by dealing with this very simple thing, give you a quick, satisfying plan to solve that, and then move instantly into visualization. If you buy this product, look at you. You could be studying and working and using the internet in this wonderful, warm, cozy blanket of wonderfulness. You can sit on the couch with your family, and if you look very carefully, even the dog can have a Snuggie. So all of you, from man, woman, child, and beast, can keep warm in this delicious and wonderful thing. And, hey, you can eat, head out to the bar, and enjoy some time with your friends in your Snuggie. And then here we go into the call to action. Ladies and gentlemen, operators are standing by. All major credit cards accepted. Children under the age of 18 must contact a parent and have their permission before buying a Snuggie. Act now. So we see Monroe's motivated sequence all the time because it's an advertiser's tool. It's a tool that many people use, whether it's in print, whether it's in video, whether people are hawking wares on the sidewalk. They get your attention. They explain a need, a problem you have in your life that you need to solve. They give you a simple solution and then instantly start telling you the practicality of that solution, helping you to visualize how much better life could be if you did this. And then they give you that last call to action. Act now. Here is that thing. Purchase this. Buy this. Do this thing. And that is, in essence, what I'm asking you in this last speech. Gather our attention. Show us a problem that needs to be solved. Now, it could be a problem within our own lives, and it could be a problem out there in the world. And then empower us. Give us something that's going to make us feel good. Something that's going to make us smile. Something that's going to let us know that we are making a difference, whether it's in our own lives or the lives of others. Show us the practicality of that solution. And if there is some measure that we have to take to go and do this, for instance, again, with my app where I'd like you to write to soldiers, it takes time. Show us that that's worth it. Now, my friends, if you sit down to take 10 to 15 minutes and write to a soldier who's overseas, serving our country, away from their friends and family, I promise you that you will feel in yourself the satisfaction of having done that. You will know that you helped to brighten someone's day, someone's week, someone's month, someone's life, simply by enacting that simple solution. And the 10 to 15 minutes that it will take you to do that will be extended probably tenfold, likely much more, simply by taking your time out of your day to do that. Similarly with our app where we're going to help the trees work. You'll feel better because you spent more time studying. You may feel better because, well, you planted a couple trees simply by studying. Show us that our action can make a difference. Show us that we can feel good about it. And then feel good about what you did. All right? Now, as always, please let me know if you have any questions. I'm very happy to answer them. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what we do here in this last presentation of the semester. All right, folks. Have a good night, and I'll see you online soon.